Live. Doing it. John Anderson, John Legeza. My second. I did a little test run yesterday, and it worked pretty well, and it went out, and you could replay it and everything. So here we are, a new part of my life, the streaming life. John, you've had some experience with this, but what's up? John Legeza's here.
All right, man. What's going on, John? I want to, before we even get into anything serious or not, I really got to say thank you from many of us who are using your tool, which you put a lot of work into, and I know you really care about. And one of the reasons why I think I'm very good at what I do is because I'm always kind of pushing the edge. And right now, you're right at the tip of the spear as far as providing granular information on your tool. I'm dead serious. It really is. It's become a daily use for me, and that's the highest praise I can give. Like, even if I hated you, I would still use it every day.
Okay, well, maybe we can get there on you hating me, and then we'll see.
I think if we talk long enough, it's bound to happen. It seems to happen for everyone else.
Yeah. They stay with me long enough, I'll tweet something that if you're not in my world, you won't like very much. But even though we don't have to get into it, but I don't say anything. I'm not a mean guy. I get along and talk to anybody. But all right. So what's up? 4th of July. You're in New York. You said you have some family over or something. Is it gonna be crazy?
Well, I'm gonna get out of here on Sunday, and we're gonna probably hit like a state fair. But New York kind of sucks, so we'll go to like a Jersey state fair, then big barbecue the next day. Then come the All-Star break, we're gonna get out of here and go to Pennsylvania for the weekend. Like, I know I'm like super intense. Obviously, it's kind of how I make my bones. I always still think I think you need to, so you don't burn out. Yeah. Baseball is always moving. I fully disconnect. Like, I don't even really watch the All-Star game. I don't. That's my time. Which is funny. I relate to the players. Some people give players a hard time about how could you not want to play, dude. And I'm home, and I don't want to be a part of it. You can only imagine the guys that haven't really seen their families for extended periods. Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine that's something you do like once and it's cool, and then after the first or second time, you're like, I'm good. But then like Mike Trout, he has to go every year. He probably puts on a good face. But so we do definitely have. I would say that I had you on the podcast. It was the day the lockout ended, right? We talked.
Oh, it was right then.
Yeah, it was. Like that news broke as soon as we stopped or something. But I got more like feedback on that one than any of the other ones, besides maybe Adam Levitan, because he's the big football name. But people really enjoyed hearing you, and I think you're right. We have different, completely opposite like personalities in terms of boisterous whatever, and energy.
Boisterosity.
Yeah.
Let's make it words, bro. F it. Who cares?
So you're loud and animated, and I am the opposite. So this goes well together, I think.
You know what's funny though, to that point, because I'm quite aware of it. I generally surround myself with people like that. I wonder if this is going to sound weird. You remind me of my wife in demeanor. In fact, me and my wife are complete yin and yangs. Like, she's Little House on the Prairie, doesn't use curse words, and I'm like a Tasmanian devil. I really, in a room full of maniacs, people are like, "Yo, this guy's really." This guy might want to seek some help after a while. Yeah, it's just what it is. So I think it works. I think the oil and water sometimes is necessary, and this probably goes to what you were talking about before. Your take's kind of pissing people off. If it's too much water, or too much oil, yeah, we're not going to get anywhere, right? We have to be wrong. We have to kind of argue and challenge each other, I think.
Yeah, nobody's right about anything. It's just they're kind of right, and the other people are kind of right, and the answer's in the middle somewhere. And you got to be calm enough to at least discuss it. So whatever you're talking about, I have that going for me at least. I don't get worked up. That works in my way. My wife is the same as me. She is very calm and laid back. Your house
must be so quiet.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we've parlayed that. I think a little bit of that came through the genes to my kids, because they're pretty, relatively for kids, I think they're pretty laid back.
Wait, how many do you have? You have more than one, right?
I have 3. Only 2 are out here in the open. One's in development.
Oh, congratulations. Fantastic. Yeah. It's funny. I have 2, and one is the first one is me. And it's funny because it's my little girl, but she is a ham bone. And then I have a little boy who is, though he's a little bit of a bruiser, he's kind of got that boyish sport thing. He's very, very quiet and very calm. He's not expressive. He's very much like my wife. It's interesting. Yeah.
Growing up in Brooklyn, right? Is that where?
Yeah. We're born and bred Brooklyn. Yeah.
That must be.
And now with gas prices, I don't really plan on going very far. I can't afford it,
man. Yeah. I did the city thing in Pittsburgh, which is nothing like New York City, but somewhat close. You can hear my kids screaming right now, I think. Maybe.
Oh, mine will. Give them a minute. Yeah, we're making.
I have a good microphone.
Right yeah, okay. I have to find a way to insulate that. I'm thinking about like insulating the room and stuff. To be honest,
I think this microphone that producer Lee gave me is pretty good at just hearing my voice, so that's good. But yeah, so I did the Pittsburgh thing, and now I'm in the suburbs in Indiana, and I think I would prefer this life. But I've seen things.
Wow, suburbs of Indiana. You know what's funny? Now that my work kind of reaches out to where I don't have to be so close to the city, I used to have to be in the city to work there. I can do that. Like, why not, man? As long as I have a strong enough Wi-Fi signal.
Come on out. It's great out here. Very cheap. You'd be.
As I'm getting
sure
older,
you'd know. But...
I want the space and the quiet. Like, I want to be the source of noise. I used to. There was a point, and it's funny how you become adaptive. There was a point, and if people know, I'm in Brooklyn. I was on. God, I lived on Bay Parkway before. I've lived on Bay Ridge Parkway. People that know. We're talking ambulance. These are main veins in Brooklyn. So all night, ambulances, police screaming like all night long. It's literally it's part of the background, you know. And then when you go somewhere else, it's almost. There was an episode of It's Sunny in Philadelphia about that. They go absolutely mad with the quiet. Yeah.
That's. I got out here and I didn't live in the city, right? Like a few miles out of Pittsburgh, so it was somewhat quiet. But you were still in a townhouse and really close to people. But now I have like a good third of an acre or something, so you'd have to walk a little bit to get to the next house. It's not far, but it is quiet, and just having grass is like incredible to me. So it's great.
Well, you know how expensive that is here. I bet you can only imagine, man.
Yeah, it was like half. I mean, probably not quite half the prices from Indiana to Pittsburgh, and then New York City. I mean, forget about it. It's probably like fifth.
Okay, come on. Now that people know that we're not all hard-hearted men, that it's not all dollars and cents.
Yeah.
Let's get into some business.
So I want to talk about you were a former not a day trader, but what did you call you?
Well, yeah, I have done it all. And it's funny, I'm really glad. Maybe there's a lesson for other people out there, and it's even if you feel somewhat secure in what you're doing, don't be afraid to kind of challenge the other free time you may have. Me, again, I measure my wealth in independence. Some people want flashy cars. That's not me, but I do get that there are different ways. My point being, like, I was a high-end electrician in another life, and you make a lot of money doing that stuff, you know, and it's fun because you're thinking and you're applying, right, using tools, but you can't be a dummy if you're going to be an electrician all the way up in the air because you get hurt, you know, and you could die, right, falling. It's actually not always the electrician, it's the electricity, it's the falling. But anyway, those people can be out of work, and a lot of times those guys put their feet up. I was challenging, you get into trading, so I went from day trading to I actually worked for a company to I actually founded a derivatives company that is now defunct, but really just that I went out there and I stepped on those rakes, you know, was willing to go through the processes of starting a business and trying to do stuff on my own and learn, self-taught, like just all this, you know, just whatever, man, being out there and willing to be wrong. And I guess, but that's probably going to be an overarching theme today, right? Yeah, man, I'm wrong so much. It's laughable when I get DMs when people are like, oh, you were wrong about Patrick Corbin.
Yeah.
You know what? I may just fold up tens of thousands of hours of work and experience. You know, maybe that's right. Maybe I'll just do that. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, people notice the losses. The losses hurt more than the wins feel good, right? That's a fact of life.
Oh, certainly, right. You know what it is, John, especially you and I, and it's part of the ego, but something I speak about in my own show, having to be the willingness to go up against that line where confidence meets arrogance. And unfortunately, sometimes going over that line, but hopefully you're surrounded by good enough people to bring you back. And that's kind of what my wife does. She's that anchor. But again, if you don't challenge arrogance, you're going to fall short, I find, because a lot of times that's where I found my success, you know. And what comes with that is we have expectations to succeed, right? So, again, I've rattled off double-digit return on investments betting baseball, and then I look back and find out nobody in America is doing that. And now, look, this year I'm not really doing very well. Now, granted, my style, because it's rooted in trading, is about capital protection more than the race to 1 million units and pink handbags in front of private jets. You know what I mean? Like, that's not me. Again, financial independence. I measure my wealth in how many months ahead overhead am I? And it's funny, when you start with one, by the time you get to like 300, you're like, wow, am I retired? But not really, you know what I mean? Like, you're like, real kind of, but not really. So that's like this weird life. But anyway, I'm willing to be wrong.
I don't do the betting stuff. I mean, I have a normal day job, which So I don't have the time. You have more to risk with this fantasy stuff. This is all just a fun hobby for me, and I make the money with. I make I can't even pay my mortgage with what I make from baseball stuff, but I mean, I can almost do it, which is like amazing for me. I
it is. That's the first step.
Yeah. So, and I'm never going to be full time. I'm not going to just like give up the insurance and the benefits and all this stuff from the security of what I do during the day. But you have, obviously, this is what you do full time. So you have to be much more careful with it. And I think that's probably the only way. And this is repeating what you talk about every podcast you're on, I'm sure. That's probably the only way to really, you have to be so disciplined, right? And the question is that since all of this, I mean, you can obviously have done this handicapping stuff for the last 30, 40 years, whatever it may be. But now that it's super legal in almost every state and just like on your smartphone, which those didn't exist 15 years ago, right? Like now that so many more people have flooded into this, how has that changed has it made it harder or easier to be profitable? I could see it both ways because more people making bad bets.
You know what's funny? If the market was regulated, it would be easier because the influx of money would proportionately move the scale. Now, here's just a very quick lesson for people that are probably like yourself, maybe are just novice, and I understand that everyone wants to calculate 0.18 units. Like, I get it. It could be recreational. But really, even at the center of that, man, you have to be thinking about sustainability, right? There has to be an element of that, even if you're looking to kind of have fun. Man, I lost my train of thought. Get me back on track because I had something good.
Is it easier or harder now to make money?
Okay, yeah. Correct. So the lack of regulation in the market is putting too much power in the hands of the books themselves. So the books control these prices. They push and pull lines however they want. They limit bettors, and that's fundamentally unfair, right? Being limited is fundamentally unfair. It really is fundamentally unfair. And I've even had experiences where I've put in bets to get a spinning wheel, and then by the time it comes back up, the price is different. Or you'll put in a bet, it'll spin, it'll say odds have changed. You'll do that 2 or 3 times and find that listen, I'm not there to toot my own horn, but again, if you're the 1% of people there was a point again, man, I was keeping like my family afloat in New York City betting on baseball, which is bananas.
Yeah,
and
that's crazy.
Again, thank God right now I'm not having to do that because I wouldn't. Although maybe if I was, to be honest, if I had to do it, I wouldn't be doing content. And maybe that's part of the difference. Dude, I'm putting out a wealth of free information that is not responded to, properly. You know what I mean? Like it's a service. Like I'm trying to give back. And if I weren't, I wouldn't be damaging my own edge because that's part of what I'm doing right now. I mean, again, I hate to be God.
You think you move? You think you move a line? You move a line every once in a while?
I know we are
really?
now, John. That's the thing. I know we are now because now that I've hit VSiN is market moving, right? So I mean, again, these are when. This is Darren's channel. This is Musburger's channel. Like these sharps are on it. This channel is on in Las Vegas. And not to blow up any names, my DMs is full of the most prominent bettors on earth. I dead serious. Like this is the stuff that happens behind the curtain. And I'm like, I can't even believe it. I'm a meatball. I'm a moron. I'm an admitted moron. But again, my face is so welted with the rakes that I kind of look up and here I am, like cutting edge now, using trading strategies with the advanced data, again, outsourced from very smart people like yourself, in incorporation with my own personal understanding of baseball, with my willingness to move forward with the new technology in Hawkeye and StatCast. Because now, Johnny, that new information and our understanding of the ball in flight leveled the playing field. Yeah. All the 30 and 40-year-old analysts, guess what? We reset. And it's almost like I speak about it like in medical terms. This is my best analogy for it. And it'll go to where we were talking about with the edge and stuff. So I know I take people on circuitous kind of marathon tangents, but sometimes it's really worth it. So with medicine, John, let's say you were a doctor for 40 years. I'm a new doctor. Technologies are constantly changing. I can't name any of them again. I'm very stupid. Lasers, carbon laser technology. Okay. Mm-hmm. You decide you're not interested in the new carbon laser technology. I decide to become interested in it, going to conferences every weekend. 5 years later, as carbon laser technology hits the fore, am I a better doctor than you? No, and nor am I trying to push that. However, if there's a procedure that calls for the newest, carbon laser technology, who are we going to? Old gray-haired Dr. John with the lollipop, or maybe this kind of new brash guy that's on the fore of the technology. So it's this amalgamation of, and this is where you and I, hopefully we're going to end up arguing a bit later, where the black and white data, where again I've tongue-in-cheek used it with you the first time, in fact, and now I use it in my shtick. Frog DNA, thinking back to Jurassic Park, the filling in of the gaps. And I think, and again, and this is where I want to be very clear, I don't claim to have filled in the gaps. I think I'm just willing to jump and miss sometimes. And sometimes you jump enough times and you find stuff that maybe the person that needed the data validation first wouldn't have gotten. Because this doesn't make sense. Like, to tangent again, this goes to Derek Carty and split data. Like, I swear by split data. Hitters anecdotally swear by hit data. Professional hitters will tell you they see a ball from the left hand better.
Yeah. Oh, it's undeniable.
He says the data, again, frog DNA. I'm not claiming. I know I've used it. I know people that are involved in the game at professional levels claim it works. The numbers back it up, at least to a certain extent. He says over enough time, it does not test out. You think I'm going to push up against the math of Derek Carty, who is orders of magnitude smarter than I? No, I just don't think that we're defining things the same way. And now this is where you and I can go, where hot comes in. Johnny, Your work is brilliant. And it's also not only properly researched and it's correct. Where I disagree with you as far as hot is I'm just not defining it the way that you are. Where you've said hot is like the last 7 days. I'm looking at it in terms of sine waves and how these waves interact. Hold on, and where I can have a situation where I have an 850 OPS last 7 that is not a trigger. So although it is a high number, last 7 hot, it's not, because to me it's a degrading trend. So does that make sense? I've been dying to get this out to you, where an objective hot number can be something I'm not attracted to, because although it's a hot number, it's on the wrong side of the trend I'm already out.
Okay, there are numbers that are more conducive or more influenced by randomness. Slugging percentage would be one of those. OPS, that's a huge part of OPS, right? Yeah. You look at someone's OPS over 5 games, maybe they hit a bloop for a double, or they did that 3-4 times, and that's going to help your slugging. Doesn't mean anything. So, of course, looking at the last 7 slugging, not going to be good. But some other people say that if we can find guys doing things that are less susceptible to randomness, like how hard they're hitting the ball, how often they're making contact, how rarely they're chasing bad pitches, right? Like those things are more in control of the hitter, less prone to just being completely random. Therefore, it tells you something. I don't know. And that's why I've had this on the daily notes. I mean, maybe we'll start sharing the screen now. That's a good thing to look at first.
Well, how about this? While you're doing it, I think, again, here's the first kind of that mix of nuance and context, is that, again, we only have so much time. I already talk too much as it is.
Mm-hmm.
I have settled on OPS as my favorite descriptor, but I would go one further to say, it's the thing why, I always want to show my work and have people fully believe in it. So after a while, I've garnered a certain amount of trust that people know that if I'm saying OPS, it's not a blind OPS. A lot of it, of course, like, again, if you hear my work, it's very detailed. It's very granular, as much as I can be, where we're combining contact with discipline. Discipline is always at the fore. And this is, something, again, this is data backed, this is data proven. And this is one thing where I do agree with all the data scientists. I spoke to Russell Carlton. I had him on my show. I should really have him back, man. Like you said with me, the sometimes the feedback of these kind of theoreticals is just, it blows people away. And Russell, if people are unfamiliar, was, I don't know, I guess he's been credited with the idea of stabilization in baseball, in our baseball sphere, let's say. And there's a lesson even within that. The first several years, I think it was like more than 5, in fact, it was being misused.
Yeah.
So those people thought they had something, and some of them were browbeating other people along the way. So we just got to be careful. And now we've kind of learned that certain stats do stabilize better than others. Some are more susceptible, like you said. But also, John, isn't there a little bit more nuance to something like OPS, like you say? Yeah, bloop double, but certain hitters use all fields. Certain fields have more real estate, which is weird about baseball because not all of the parks are standardized. So a hitter that has a good contact rate with a low standard deviation of launch angle, a high contact rate with a high hard hit rate, but also a high spray, right, left, right, center, has a more validated high OPS in a granular situation, a single game scenario, let's say. And these are the things that we can't make absolute, but hopefully we're getting closer to figuring out.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I'm responding to your points here, but there's just almost nothing when if you're looking at a week. I mean, we're looking at a week. The top plate appearances are not even 30, and I don't know if there's any stat that will stabilize even get close to stable. Some will stabilize much quicker, like contact rate. Joey Gallo's probably not ever going to have a week where he makes contact 80% of the time. I guess we could check that and see if he's ever done it before, but that's probably never going to happen.
Again, I have to just challenge the base here is why state I guess maybe it depends what we're talking about. If we're talking about rest of season fantasy, then yeah, I guess I would definitely agree with you. If we're trying to make longer term decisions, stabilization should be at the center. If we're talking about DFS or betting or something, I'm not interested in stabilization.
But you're using numbers that wouldn't tell you anything. If you're looking at
see, that's not necessarily true because we don't. These are things. They happen independently of each other, but we also have information. So I'll give you a perfect example. This is a perfect example of like a wave scenario. When you have a really good hitter that stinks for a really long time, you don't, in trading terms, we don't try and catch a falling knife because we don't know if the player is hurt. Okay?
Yes.
So you allow the player to stink, especially if it's in like a big spot. And again, this is frog DNA. But what's not frog DNA is solid contact home runs. If a really bad hitter hits the ball hard, it's a good indication there's something going on, and it could just be health. And that's another part of it that
It could be.
I marry as an intangible that I think, for me, and this is just part of my own thinking, for me, a certain percentage of OPS is health.
Yeah.
Because part of my working theory is professional major league hitters are really, really good. And they basically, because my work is generally centered around pitching, that I think no matter how good the pitcher is, a good major league hitter hits a major league pitching mistake, almost regardless who it's from, right? We see it happen with Hunter Green. Hunter Green has this ridiculous fastball. In theory, no one should ever be able to hit it. It's ridiculous.
They miss a lot of mistakes, though, right? I mean,
it happens, and of course, wonkiness to ball stuff. But I think, gosh, man, maybe we need a series because this would lead me into.
I don't know what we're talking about specifically.
It doesn't matter. What are we talking about? We're talking about thinking.
I don't know.
We're talking about
we haven't agreed.
We talked about hot. We talked about markets. We talked about shaping. We talked about everything. That's what it takes to succeed. I think that's what it takes to succeed. Is not being boxed in. And as long, dude, this is my plate spinning analogy, right? Eric Bren from the Gong Show, the guy spinning bowls on sticks. My favorite analogy for critical thought. Every bowl represents thought. You can spin as many as you like, providing you get back to it before it falls off and keep it relevant. So you could sometimes you even have this, particularly when I'm doing my thing. Think about the carnival music. Things are going bananas because that's the world we live in. Chaos is everywhere. If you think you're going to box this into, I'd like to take lefty ERA, max it up against righty OPS. That's just not what it is. You're going to lose doing it.
You spun like 9 bowls right there, and now we're on like.
And that's okay. 39. So now let's leave that
pick a bowl. Let me pick a bowl.
There we go.
We'll spin it. So is it possible? The question is, and I'm the only one that seems to even have a little bit of doubt for this. Okay. I don't know. Is it even possible that outside of health, obviously, if you're not healthy. And you plenty of times guys play hurt, and plenty of times they play at their best health in years, and that's when that looks like hot, but it's not truly hot, right? It's just health. But outside of that, is it even possible for a hitter to just all of a sudden, like they say, the euphemism or the cliche is that the ball looks like a beach ball, right? Is that even possible, or is this just a post hoc explanation? Oh, I hit really well for a week, I feel good. It already happened, right? I'm justifying my feelings based on what already happened. Because before they got hot, they probably couldn't have got hot. They couldn't have told you, oh, I'm about to, because I'm seeing it well. I know that I'm about to have a big week. I don't know if that happens. I don't know if you can really perform above your abilities for a temporary. You can improve, obviously, right? But improvement is not hotness. That's just improvement. A hotness, by the terms that everybody seems to speak and believe in, is that, I don't know, for 10 days, I'm just a better player than my career average. And it's just some kind of physical, mental thing rather than variance or bad pitching faced or things like that.
Yeah, it's not like you're wrong about any of this. A piece of the frog DNA that I can add, again, hopefully it doesn't sound like guessing. It's more inferring, because I've spoken to both professional, minor, and major league hitters about this.
Yeah.
And the idea of health is the first. But the thing that we don't often hear about is that first you need health, then you need timing. And that's where sample comes in. So it's health and timing, because we need routine. So it's health plus timing.
Timing in what way?
Meaning you need to be healthy for long enough to be good. Just being healthy is not enough. You need to be healthy with repetitions in order to be good. And sometimes those things get out of whack. They're not always synchronized, is what I should say. Meaning, just as you're about to get your timing going, you've been healthy now and your timing is ready, you get hit on the hand and now you're set back. You and I see the name batting third every day. We assume health. That is not fair. And that is part of the missing data, because there is a opaqueness when it comes to the reporting, right? We don't have full access to medical data. These people are not seeing our doctors. They're not seeing a Las Vegas standardized medical team to help us figure out what's going to happen. So we have to fill that stuff in. So there is health and timing, which I think explains a little bit.
You left my bowl alone. My bowl's over here.
No. The other part of it is, how do players, where does it come from? And I think you provide part of the answer in your tool. And I'll give you an example. It's just yesterday. Nick Castellanos is, by all objective measures, cold. 618 OPS. Go bring up Nick Castellanos. He's been bad lately. Very, very bad. I know for a fact.
He doesn't play for them anymore. Here we go.
He's on Philadelphia. That was a pretty good vote of confidence for yourself right there. Dude, I do it all. I shouldn't be making fun. I do it all the time. My dad sheets up.
Before yesterday, what do you want to see? So here he is from June 5th to before yesterday's game.
Just terrible, right? He's been terrible for quite a bit. I mean,
3% barrels, 68 contact. Yeah, that's way worse than what we're used to.
Okay. So how did Nick Castellanos end up on my home run model? John, if anyone, I haven't promoted it. Right, going to take a second. My Cork Stats show on the Mayo Media Net, Monday through Friday. If you like my unique combination of loud noises and baseball statistics, I give a couple names every day. We do a stack because we do daily. We do fantasy and betting all.
I did see him on there yesterday. Yeah.
Okay, so Castellanos was on my. I only put out 6 names. How did he make a sheet of 6 names with a 568 OPS over 95 plate appearances? So, John, am I chasing hot? I would hope not. I would hope not. So, again, this is where you have opened the door to the understanding, okay? And this is where I have opened the door to the understanding. And this is the bowl, overarching bowl, where data scientists and computer models are unmatched at hitting models. They're unmatched. If you're a human trying to figure out hitting, just save your time. Yep. They cannot. I'm saying they cannot, and I shouldn't say they cannot. I should say they have not to date modeled pitching correctly. Projections are wrong. I mean, and I firmly believe this. This is part of where I've gotten in the industry, and I believe it will be at the center of where I'm going in the industry. Is my complete discardment, if that's a word, of all pitching modeling and projection data. I do not care for it at all. I think it's wrong. I think the idea, this blanket idea of regressing fly balls is wrong. I think a lot of it is wrong. I think this overstressing of K minus walk is wrong. I think a lot of it is done incorrectly. I understand why we do it, because data scientists need to fit everything into a little box and need to stick it in the computer, when in reality, pitching takes the nuanced hand. You can look at data. It's helpful.
But look.
Go ahead.
You need to answer the question about how we ended up there. But
this is it. We're just at the last stanza. Is
okay.
My understanding of pitching and the ball in flight told me we were looking at one of the worst right-handed fastballs in baseball. Bring up Nick Castellanos against right-handed fastballs. Okay. I'm pretty sure I checked this before. I'm pretty sure this is how I got there
for the year.
Yeah, well, start with the year again. You got to remember, I use crossing timelines, so something triggered a yes. Okay,
right. So here's a good chance to show off. So you asked me to show what Castellanos has done against right-handed fastballs. You can do that from right here in the main hitters tab. I selected right-handed from the P hand, meaning pitcher hand, and now I can pick. You want sinkers too, or just four-seamers? You're gone. I can't hear you. Disaster. I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've been muted, so you don't have. I'm sorry. I was muted, so you don't hear people screaming.
Okay.
Show off your wonderful tool.
Do you want four seamers just that, or do you want?
Yeah, give me four seamers and show me what it looked like. Yeah.
So here's what he was. Here's what he is now.
Okay, give me 1 more second, people. As John is showing you in real time how unbelievably fast and smooth this is. It is unmatched right now. Seriously. Wait a minute. Is that a 20.5% barrel? Yeah. 12%? Hold on. Wait a minute. But Nick Castellanos is cold. His OPS told me so. So again, I'm over here identifying the bad pitches and why they fail. And then you've helped me identify what hitters succeed in those probabilistic scenarios. You weigh them up against the odds that the book provides. Again, the public would be in our favor with more bettors, but the providers are being really tough. And there you go. There you go.
So do you have one for tonight? Have you looked at this yet?
I would say you have to watch the show, but yeah, it's probably again, I mean, there were a couple gas cans going, so yeah, I got some. Let's see. Because John, I used your tool. I used your tool. Hey, let's go with the. Can we pick some low fruit? Let's make you look really good, man. Let's pick some low fruit. How about the Braves against Mike Minor? Can we do that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
There's some low fruit for you. Okay, so how about this? I'm gonna show you the flip side. Oh, although you know what, Johnny, and again, I probably owe you an apology of sort. I use yours again for hitting. I'm kind of set in my way with pitching. Your pitching thing is good also. I just keep them open on simultaneous tabs. But I can tell you what, and this is, if there were anything missing, and it probably has to do with calculations as you were explaining to me, what I like so much about Savant and other boards maybe out there is that they have expected outputs on pitching. So Savant provides an expected slug on individual pitches. So let's look at that. So now that we know
I could get that. Yeah.
Okay, so Mike Minor struggles against righties. So immediately we're looking for right-handed hitters on the Braves. We know, okay, we go to his page, we bring up let's go to just right-handed hitters. So this is, here, you do your thing, I'll do mine. And they probably will match up, but might be where the difference is, where you kind of have barrels, and I'm looking at expected slug, which I really like.
I have ex-Woba on here now, so.
Yeah, ex-Woba is okay also, but I think, and I've had this discussion with people smarter than myself, I believe we really want it isolated to a contact-only statistic.
Okay.
Right? We want something contact-only. We don't want...
I don't
even know the difference, to be honest.
A lot of slugging would come from barrels, so you could kind of get there.
Yes, correct. Absolutely correct.
So and here's the Braves today against lefties.
Yeah, but now look, you want to be looking for his entire basket, because Minor is... it's not purely four-seam. He does throw the four-seam, but it's 25% changeup, 23% slider, 6% curve. Now, this is a number I dropped on the show. His expected slug on the changeup to righties is 700. His expected slug on the slider to righties is 800. His expected slug on the curve to righties is 920. Now on the fastball, which is funny, it's only 500, but he has allowed 2 home runs. So because the secondaries are so poor, I don't think we need to just isolate the fastballs. Although I would suggest to followers, readers, and listeners and the like, there are certain pitchers that quite literally throw their fastball like 2/3 of the time. They have a 65% or greater fastball usage. Just bring up the fastball page. You know they're going to see 1 or 2. You know you're going to see it. Yeah. So the Braves against lefties are just mashing right now. Oh, here's a perfect example. We could circle back to the hot bowl and players above their skis bowl with a player like Adam Duvall, right? So Adam Duvall was just hideous this year, right, Johnny? Wasn't he just despicably bad? Yeah. I think he was just awful, like almost droppable. Yeah. Now, we know he's not great, but we know he can hit ding-dongs. We know he's mashed lefties in the past. Correct. So a guy like him starts hitting lefties. Like, I feel like I'm not reinventing the wheel here. This should appeal to the data scientists out there. This is a hitter whose profile includes lots of power. So if he goes on a 250 plate appearance stretch where he doesn't hit any home runs, for me to expect a overcorrection to the mean shouldn't be that crazy, right? And I feel like that's what we've seen with Adam Duvall. So now he's in a great spot. It's just, again, I'm very stupid. I think I'm just very good at framing this smart stuff for stupid people because I don't feel like it's that complicated.
So there's one. There's a actionable thing. Maybe get some money down on Adam Duvall, who you can see from these rolling charts that he is on the way up. And that's a good example of just like, Duvall was terrible in April and some of May, but do you want to even look at? Do you care about?
Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry. Do not change this chart. Leave this on the screen. Now go ahead. Finish. I'm sorry.
Do you have any? Why should I care about 6 weeks of Adam Duvall in 2022 when I have the bigger sample of his whole career? Like I'm just gonna pick his career numbers over the last 6 weeks every time, even if the underlying fancy numbers make it seem like something. I don't know. Like we get into this problem where no matter what the number is, no matter what the metric is and how advanced it is, if you're looking at 2 or 3 weeks of it, I don't care. Like I want to see the career numbers more. I'm going to trust those more. Maybe you'll be wrong because obviously what Duvall did in 2017 isn't very relevant to the player he is now. He's 5 years old.
See, I don't know if I might push on that. Meaning, and this even goes to what we were talking about the small samples is, depending on the player, this is not necessarily Duvall specific, but Castellanos it's that type of problem, meaning, is the player doing something out of character from the large sample? If they've always damaged fastballs, now listen, at that point, like 30 plate appearances, it might be something that you don't normally see them stink for so long.
Yeah.
Then you go to your rolling chart. That's why I wanted you to leave this up. And I hope the graphics people, if this is podcast only, this is worth looking at. And John, you can't, it's amazing how life plays itself out in these mathematical patterns. That's another discussion, but look at this chart, right? Adam Duvall I'm not saying he has no control over this chart, but the plotting of this chart, he has no control over. This is a clear bearish channel in trading terms, right? Meaning consecutive higher lows followed by higher highs. Now there is the spike in the first one, but you could see a ascending channel here, right? I mean, it's pretty clear, right? Would you say that?
Yeah.
Now, would you also agree we could almost pretty much connect those bottom points in parallel?
What do you mean?
Looking at this chart as an ascending channel, could you not connect the 4.9 to the 5.8 to the 7.0, those bottom bases? Are they not almost like in a direct line, John?
A 20th. You mean like a straight line through them? Or
yes,
in terms
they not almost make a channel line, a base channel?
Sure.
So now you've just been introduced to technical analysis. I just showed you the 101 of technical analysis, chart reading as a trader. So
you'd say that this should continue? Like there's a good chance that this trend will continue, that he will...
No, in fact, he's a sell right now.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
He will be expected. Now, I wonder if you could do this. I don't have the means to do this. I don't have the tech means to do this. Right. If you could extrapolate the chart, and if you could draw on this, like if I could snap lines, I could give you a date of expectation of regression expectation.
No, you couldn't. I mean,
in a window.
You wouldn't be right. You could do it, but that would be insane to do.
Again, you'd be wrong. You would have been wrong unless you had done it in this case. And then you would have been exactly right, and you would have looked like a damn.
You can't predict. I mean, you can predict. I can predict Duvall's barrel rate over the next month better. Like in terms of,
I guess I shouldn't have been looking at barrel, but let's say this was
whatever.
Let's say this was something a little more than I believed in, like expected WOBA for a single hitter.
Yeah,
Johnny. Yes, these are the again.
But you're still, but to do that, you would have in your mind what the guy's career number is and what to expect, so you would kind of channel it towards that expectation.
No, the chart is telling you. The chart is telling you. And watch. And again, hopefully we're friends when this plays out.
It's fine.
I'm trying to squint because my vision is not great. So that's just a couple months. No. Yeah, zoom back. Oh, okay, thank you. No, that's okay. That's okay. So April 30th to May 20th. So that's a 2-month drop. And then May to June was another 2-month drop. And now June to July. So basically, like the drop is coming. He's currently overperforming. Where we saw that peak at 11.2 right to the left of where your cursor is, that should have continued to decline. And we can expect the next bottom to be a touch higher than the previous low. Expect Adam Duvall's rolling barrel rate to decline over the next couple months. Hold on, this is my prediction. Okay, you're making faces for the audio-only people. Expect his barrel rate to decline in natural progression. He spiked because he doesn't want you to see this. You spiked the graph.
Here you go.
You spiked the graph.
I'm pulling up his career barrel rate. No, you keep going. Okay, I'll move the window.
Over the next couple months to where, and because this happens in fantasy all the time, people are unaware of the natural cycles. They get disgusted during the downturn. And this happens, forget just fantasy baseball. This is trading. This is absolutely everything in life that has to do with cycles and risk ventures, buying and selling. Just when it's at its top, you think the continuation will be in perpetuity. That's not how it generally works. So I'm speaking your language of regression. So he's over his skis right now. He's going to regress, but I'm saying this chart would tell me I expect it to decline to about 7.5, 7.3, which is still palatable. But during that decline, people would be puking, self-gagging, self-emulating because he stinks. When in this chart, it would just be part of the natural way forward. And again, it doesn't mean it's right, but it is a perspective that is
it's regression to the mean, though. So his career barrel rate is 11.6%. So if we had to play a game and we had money on this, and you said, what will Adam Duvall's barrel rate be from today to the end of the year? I would look up his career average and predict that. That's what I think would be the best way to guess. But you would look more into it.
Just a touch. But yeah, just a touch more because tangible changes, again, like you mentioned, discipline at the 4. So I don't want to just be grabbing stuff out of midair. I want to be using things that you and I agree on, hopefully that I'm building on, where we can find a middle ground, where changing a pitching coach or, experiencing changes in discipline or contact can make a difference. But aside from that, we're not in disagreement. And this is where, where if you noticed before when I said I would agree if we were talking about rest of season fantasy, dude, give me the average. Absolutely. Give me the average almost every time, which I get. But we're not talking about the average in betting and DFS. We're talking about today. So it becomes that the battle between the micro and the macro. And bottom line is this. If you're going to bet or do DFS, you have to overreact to the now.
Right,
I mean, it's kind of part of it.
Let's put a bow on this. If you needed to say what will his barrel rate be this weekend, and that, just say this isn't necessarily true, but his career number is 11%, but over the last 10 days he's hitting 16%. If you had to guess what it'll be this weekend, would you say closer to 11% or closer to the more recent 16%?
No, given the price action on the chart going back to early June, give me that rectangle between 10.6 and 11.9. Give me that rectangle. All
right. How about what else on the? We can just show up. What else do you use the dashboard for? And then, we should show off some of your stuff too.
I mean, listen. If you want me, just open your ears. You can follow me on Twitter. It'll take you everywhere, and it's all free. And I think it's a lot of fun, but I think the show especially is a lot of fun because it's very quick, And I like to think I offer a lot of the other stuff, like the stuff that you and I talked about. I try and mix in. Trust me, I understand. Nobody cares about a breakdown between the Twins and the Guardians tomorrow.
Yeah.
Just nobody cares. So I do try and leave people with those tips that help you in life, man. Because again, I had to do it myself. Being self-made, that comes with the discipline, those stringent kind of parameters and stuff. So enough of me. Your tool really is the showcase right now.
What else? So what
am I using?
I designed it. Let me tell you this. I designed it. I designed it so I know how to use it, and I designed it to how I would use it. Right? Like I can't get out of my head. So what I haven't done is like I've more recently started publicizing it because I don't make any money off of it, so I really don't care if people use it. I mean, if we're just talking in selfish terms, which you have to, right? Like that's how everybody's brain works. But certainly for me, I'm going to publicize the notes, which people have to pay me for a little bit more than this. But if I can, and I know that a lot of people haven't looked at it just because it's a little bit intimidating, and that makes sense because you can't just throw this out with, there's language here that doesn't make any sense. P usage, right. Like what would that be? So what do you use this most for, and what do you have questions about for people that want to use this more that maybe I can help them learn a bit more?
Wow. So, I mean, first, the chart that you showed, is that a tool on this? Because, again, the way
that's over here.
Okay. See, because obviously I love rolling charts, and I think they really give a very unique perspective. So I love that idea. I would almost say I'm overwhelmed by your tool.
Yeah.
And in the very best way, it reminds me of the human brain itself, that it's awe-inspiring knowing how to use 1% of it. It's truly John, you really should be very, very proud of this. And I'm not blowing you because it's funny. I've been apologetic, but I've also been critical, right? Hopefully I've helped you add some stuff, but I'm not saying critical in a bad way, right? But you've asked me what I would change. So I'm not here blowing smoke at you. This is perfect and you're great. Those things may be true.
I don't want to hear it.
So for me, I think I love the hitting side of it. I absolutely love the Arsenal tab, people, is phenomenal. I think on the pitching side, you have swinging strike. I like whiff. On the hitting side, it's missing expected stats. So these are just the things that I kind of look at. I know you and I spoke about team data. I think team data might be a little bit more important than people give it credit to. Again, that's fraud. This is total frog DNA. But it's tested, and I don't know. Some things test out. I don't know why they test out. And again, I'm not gonna challenge people that push R correlations and then say, "Well, I've correlated and it works." Sometimes things may just work. Right? Causation may not be correlation. And man, people, teams, things go in waves. I don't know, man. It sounds stupid sometimes doing it, but you see it reflect in those disciplinary stats. Teams take pitches together for whatever reason, but it's the truth. And it might be from the front organization. Again, there's that opaqueness. We don't have full access, so we have to guess. Okay. But teams do take pitches together. And when I have always said, because it was my theory that I've inferred, then tested, and you can't prove it, but where discipline has led to quality of contact. Now, it's not because you take pitches, you hit the ball harder, but it does lead to some sort of reasoning that taking more pitches leads you to getting a more optimal pitch for yourself. I think that's intuitive. Now, it might not always be, because the best pitch might be early in the count, which is why pitchers do that. They try and tempt you early on, which is funny. We actually saw that yesterday where my boy Graham Ashcraft got lit up on the board. But if you saw, dude, there was only a single ball hit over 101 miles an hour. Yes, the bomb to Wisdom was an absolute monster blast. Yeah. But other than that, it was dink and dunk. They made an error in front of him. It was a disaster. But the point I wanted to get at was,
keep going, but I'm going to show you here.
Hold on, if you look at the game log, see again, I didn't even know it was there. If you look at the game log, they jumped on his first pitches.
Okay.
And, so that's something you may see together. So, like, if you were expecting
check this out.
The Cubs to walk, they may not. But okay, go ahead. What the hell is that? Shoot.
This is every batted ball plotted. It is slow, but we can go here. Go to yesterday. Pick Ashcraft. This is every ball put in play against him.
Oh my goodness, this is crazy. Is this on your tool right here?
Yeah.
Johnny, I'm sorry, I'm like flabbergasted in real time. Batted, okay, BIP plot. Right, yeah. John, you got to do a better job of I understand it's for you and kind of for me a little bit, but you got to frame it for people because this is stuff that
I need the money. I got a lot of stuff to do. It's hard to do things that I'm not directly.
You heard him. He needs that money, people.
But
I mean, just right now, frame it like tell people the BIP plot.
Yeah, I do send some screenshots out every once in a while. But yeah, so I mean, this is a good. I don't know how to use this usually. It's very like specific thing to want, but like you brought it up, so here's a good way you could say, okay, well, did they actually hit the ball hard off Ashcraft last night, and what angles? I mean, there's 3 balls hit directly into the ground that went for. There's an error. There's a.
Can I ask you a question really quick? Because again, I whatever. It's not arrogant. I'm an advanced player, let's say. So can I kind of think of this in the same terms as that Statcast picture where there would be a batter in the corner, and this has that kind of the like. Remember that original barrel chart? Right? Is that the idea of it? Yeah,
you could put a batter right here. So this is a launch angle of 0 is what pretty much into the ground. I think around 10 degrees you get a line drive. So, you have to kind of know what the angles mean. Like most home runs come between 25 and 40, right? So like this is kind of the sweet spot. And you see Wisdom's moonshot was right there at 34 degrees. But then, as you go to the right, the launch speed comes up.
I didn't know if we were going to get into it. There's where your wind comes in. Remember, you mentioned that.
Yeah.
That happened to be one of those balls. A lot of mid 30 degree balls have not gotten out this year.
But this one's hit 108 miles an hour.
Yeah, he cracked. Oh, he crushed it, and it was extremely poor location. You know, I wasn't trying to make excuses for I do like Ashcraft. He throws gas. He works the edges. He gets ahead. He does a lot of good stuff. And then, of course, we had, low IQ Twitter people. He got creamed. He got destroyed. Sorry, excuse me. So I went to check. Yeah. I went to check the Savant page. And look, all those balls were in like the 8. I mean, listen, if you got beat up on 5 singles that were at 88 miles an hour, from in-point point of view, we have to take that, right? You have to want that.
Yeah. So here's what I'm doing now is I'm looking at that 107, 109 miles an hour range and putting that angle range, 27 to 33. And this is every batted ball hit like that this year. And you can see quite a few home the red of the home runs. So, yeah, I mean, that's going for a home run almost every time. Austin Riley had a double. Stanton had a bad, unlucky flyout, stuff like that. So that's something.
Right. But those He creamed. It was 108.30, right? 108.34. Yeah, he cracked it, and it went to 408, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I happened to see that yesterday. I get it. Listen again. It's not to make excuses, but it is also really important to know that because I forget who it was. You know what I think it was? I think it was Spencer Turnbull, which is funny. The baseball season's so long, that sounds like a throwback from the 80s. But Spencer Turnbull had some insane location to contact to batted ball result luck. And it was very odd. Or I think it was early this year. Yeah, it had to be this year, right? Did he pitch this year and get hurt early on? Gosh, I feel lost.
I don't know. I think he threw a no-hitter last year, right? But I don't think he's been on the bigs this year.
Wait, he didn't throw this year at all? He didn't start the year in the big league. God, I'm so sorry. I hate to figure stuff out in.
Well, we can do that quick. We can go see every pitcher that's thrown a pitch for Detroit.
Okay, you're right. He didn't pitch this year. So it was last year. It was the beginning. It was early on last year. It was the start of last year, and people were throwing out the baby with the bathwater on Turnbull. Yeah. But it was like home runs where the ball was legitimately outside of the zone. So if you give up 3 doubles on balls outside of the zone, you almost have to take those from a location standpoint, right? Because that's all the pitcher can control. He can't control if you're going to get Vlad Guerrero'd, seniored out the park on that.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's just whatever, nuance always.
So real quick, there's a pitch plot here that you could go look at something like that. You can go. This will show every pitch thrown this year. Then you can go to BIP result and hit home run and see all the pitches. The strike zone's not very perfect because obviously the strike zone moves around for everybody. But
right.
But like Higa, I'm gonna try to say this guy's name. Kyle Higashioka hit a home run on an ephus thrown by Frank Schwindel, way up there. So that's
awesome.
That's an outlier.
That's really cool. Can you do me a favor? Can you highlight that green one to the left of where you are right now? That really low pitch. What? How low was that? That it just seems so far outside the regular window. It's a full baseball outside.
Some of them can't. The hover.
Oh, too bad. Oh man, sorry. Yeah. Well. That's crazy. Well, can I ask you a question now? And not to put you on the spot because you've seen enough of this data that maybe you could infer. This is a really interesting conversation a lot of the smarter people have had over the years. I think now we finally have some of the data to prove it, although, again, I'm not sure it's being applied properly. When it comes to pitchers, control of contact allowed. Where would you go with that? Because I think there has to be a certain element where contact allowed is a function of poor command.
Yeah.
So where would you go with that?
Between the example always comes to mind for me is Shane Bieber in 2018, right?
Yes.
He was, the strikeouts and walks were great, but he just got like hit so hard, and not everybody, but plenty of people were like, "Hey, let's we might, that's a problem for him. He gives up hard contact." And I was just like, I don't know. I certainly trust the strikeouts and walks and ground balls and stuff like that way more than hard contact. But I'm not saying that obviously you can't expect the same barrel rate from Max Scherzer as you can from Yusei Kikuchi or something like that. Like that, there's something to this. If you sort by barrel rate allowed, you're going to see a lot of bad pitchers, and that's almost always true. Over a short sample, if you know that, Garrett Cole can give up some home runs, right? But if he goes a month and gives up a 12-13% barrel rate, for him, you'd be like, okay, don't buy into that. Like, that should correct. It's just, over a small sample, especially a few, 3-4 batted balls can really jack up that percentage. So, but to answer the question, I think it's pretty in control of the pitcher. I do. But there's more randomness involved than with strikeouts, walks, and like ground ball rate. I think.
Now, here's something for you, because again, you kind of have the brain tool and the tech tool to do it. The best that we have, or from what I've gathered, people trying to reverse engineer some of these contact metrics into batted ball, which again, we have readily accessible. The problem is, meaning for people that aren't aware, like heart and shadow, right, John? You know what I'm saying? Right? We have those numbers, right? So Savant provides heart and shadow, that pink and yellow box, to give you an idea. Now, a lot of times, a high heart rate,
heart of the plate, meaning, let's just say heart would be like right over the middle of the plate, very easy to hit. Shadow is like right on the edges of the strike zone.
Yeah, but even that heart and shadow then each cover like 6 or 8 different zones, which we could get more particular to. But the idea being, and again, it's intuitive, but I think intuition gets us in trouble here, that it's intuitive that the more balls left over the plate in this example, heart percentage, the higher the heart percentage, the more poor contact, hard contact will be allowed. Now, though that does stand to reason and does test out to a certain extent, the thing is, hitters' hot zones are not necessarily middle. Right, so I don't know if that's because they're not looking there, because they don't get tested there. That part I don't necessarily know, but I know that is the case for hitters. So, oh my gosh, who stunk? Was it Simeon? Oh, maybe it's Marcus Simeon. I covered at The Athletic, and you could throw the ball over the heart of the plate to Marcus Simeon. That's not where he wants it. He hits the ball up and in, right? So his career WOBA, batting average, everything is all really in or up and in, or that kind of like triangle of the plate. So you'd see where attacking the middle, though it makes sense. If you throw the ball center, that's going to end up in the seats. Then you have certain pitchers that can win in the zone, right? Freddie Peralta can throw you a ball that lands in the heart. He's very difficult to hit because his fastball has different movement profile than other hitters. So you might be able to match up the location to the hitter's preference and almost tell us more about the pitcher's control, though you'd have to make the assumption the pitcher is working off the scouting report. But do you see where I'm going? Like you, I think you and I basically probably belong in a front office somewhere, but whatever.
Probably. I'm trying to get there.
But you see where I'm going.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. You can dive into this stuff like crazy. I think another thing that I try to fight against is doing stuff like that. Like we can go see, you could look at every pitcher's hot zone or whatever and see what pitchers are best at avoiding them. But I don't know. These things are all just like, if you're doing that well, if that's a real thing and a pitcher's doing that well, then it's going to show up in their strikeout rate, barrel rate, walk rate. So why not just look at those? You're muted again. You did it again.
Again, I think that's but my little guy is better than what you heard. I think he's doing Tarzan. I think he's
I didn't
doing
hear him.
Tarzan impressions.
We didn't hear him at all, so you're good.
Well, though, again, you're right. I think the application would be my only pushback would be fantasy rest of season, fantasy baseball, 1,000,000% zero push. Where when it comes to the more granular stuff, I just think the reaction times are different. I think I think you're more willing to look for. Again, man, and this, I wonder again, I love kicking it to you because I love picking your brain because I think you're much smarter than I am. We've had pitchers openly talk about having trouble controlling the baseball. We've also had Major League Baseball not only tell us the ball is not to say it's different from the past, but the humidor is now everywhere, which we also know has disparate handling. Let's say it's a non-standardized treatment of the ball. And I did mention being an electrician. I could give people a very quick lesson. Again, I'm not going to pretend to be a scientist, but weather matters. Earth science matters. And as an electrician, countless times have I marked a hole before I went home working outside to come in the next day to find out the holes don't line up because cold and hot changed the metal that I was working on. Seriously, we're talking gigantic structures you would never think would be altered by weather. Again, I'm in New York, so I guess we do have some extremes over the course of a day. But this stuff matters. I have been talking about this in the show, and we have seen these very extreme home-away splits bring up Jose Berrios. Okay. Isn't it possible? We heard – now, he wasn't one of the pitchers to complain. Michael Lorenzen was. Michael Lorenzen openly said he's like, there are some ballparks, I get the ball, it's slick. Other ballparks, I have a great feel for it. So isn't it possible that if your home park is the environment that has the ball that you like, you know what I mean? Like, this sucks where we're going with this, but it's true, that you stand to reason you'd be really good, and vice versa. So I think Berrios is suffering from this insane home-away split where right now, dude, I'm just doing the trend as your friend right now. It's almost like we've been attacking Berrios to no end on the road, and we keep getting paid, and I keep looking really smart, but I don't know why.
All right, so here's why you do that on the dashboard. You need to use this exclude values button, and this is something that probably people won't figure out intuitively. But
good job. Yeah, true.
I picked Berrios, and then I picked the Toronto park. I took a screenshot of the home numbers, and then I changed this to exclude values. So that looks at every park except Toronto. And the comparison here, at home, 25% strikeout rate, 33% called strike plus whiff, 13% barrel rate, and then on the road, the barrel rate is lower, but the strikeout, there's 10-point difference there. The CSW is way down. So, definitely better command, it seems, at home.
I mean, this is where I prefer your method. I prefer your methodology here of trying to look at underpinning stats. I don't always, you provide it, but sometimes it's a matter of brevity because I handle so many of these. I'm handicapping every game, every day. Sometimes I need to snap, like a Fangraphs has like a, quick. You get these output things and you just see the disparity. It's unbelievable. Home batting average allowed, 216. OBP plus slug, I have to do back on a napkin math, probably 650. So 215 batting average allowed at home, 650 OPS, 293 WOBA. That's excellent. Yeah. On the road, 792 ERA, a 326 batting average allowed. John, he's got a 957 OPS, 410 WOBA on the road. How do you?
I know. What's going on? So this is the problem that it very well could be something like that with the baseball or with what Betty sleeps in or whatever you can think of. It could be like there's no doubt that those could be a real thing, a real tangible thing to point to, but you don't know. Like
you
this
think
could
all the ladies.
It could, who knows? Does he do better in Toronto?
I've been joking for years.
Let me finish my point.
Hold on, check this out. I've been joking for years that Adam Wainwright's wife makes the best breakfast in the world. Check his home stats.
There goes another spinning bowl. But you just don't know what the explanation is because if we're looking at 15 starts here, you don't know if it's that or if it's randomness. So why are you trying to guess at it? And then if you do guess at it and you put a bunch of money on him when he's at home or vice versa, and then it turns out you're like wrong, then you're putting you're wrong, and it has been randomness, then you're putting money on something for no good reason. I don't know. Like, let's try to wrap things up here. We got first of all, I'm going to ask you about a question from my buddy. I know you're not real into the strikeout props. We have two questions about it. My friend Paul swears by umpires. He really likes to see the umpires strike zone called, and then he likes to see how that influences the, if there's a guy has a very big strike zone, he'll maybe bet the over on a pitcher. Two questions on that. I know you're not a strikeout prop bet, but you've been in that space. Do you think the umpire makes a significant difference? And do you think the betting lines factor that in?
I'm not sure if the betting lines can factor it in because the umpires are not always named early enough, right, and the props are out early.
Okay, good point.
Now, that's part of what we mentioned. Wow, this is awesome. That was a great incidental tie-in all the way through the original bowl with the books having too much control over it. So the way that they rectify this, people, is by juicing these things to the bowls. That's what they do. That's why strikeout props are minus 170, minus 180. And that's why I don't bet them. Not because I don't like them, but that's why. To the umpire point specifically. Okay. Umpires absolutely matter. But similar to something like wind, I do think they're part of effective analysis. I do not think they are the end-all, be-all. I do not think they should be the reason.
But it's something to look at. Something to look at, for sure.
In fact, I think how about this? I think they're important enough. You're doing a disservice by not looking, meaning I now know, do not look for home runs and overs if the wind is blowing in for 15 miles an hour. If it's 3, you don't care about that. But especially places where we know the wind really matters. Right now, Cleveland at home, right? Washington at home.
But the lines reflect either way. The lines move to reflect that, whether it's based on
for wind. Yeah, that's where wind is not a better example because the wind is more telegraphed than the umps. Sorry, back to the umps.
Yeah.
You absolutely must, particularly if you're really paying attention to some of these auditors out there, they have very clear tendencies. Again, right, appealing to the data scientist. This guy called 3 pitches outside last time. A lot of these umpires are 1,000 years old and have 1,000 game samples, and now we're going back and we're kind of mining this data, scraping this data, and applying this data. So I think if you're using, you don't want to be looking at the box score from the last game. You want to be using specialists. Make sure you're using umpire auditor. Make sure you're using Ballpark Pal in terms to win, right? People that are really tested. So I would absolutely say umpires matter.
I got trucked on that last night. I just stick to the numbers for DFS. I wanted to talk about that, but I guess we won't have time. You think DFS is stupid?
I got time, baby. Screw it.
Let's answer one more question about the strikeout prop. John Carlson asked, what would I consider a bet based on the projection difference? So this is a sheet I put together. It's a script that runs. It uses my projections for pitchers. Disclaimer there, my projection system depends on a pitch count. That's where it all derives from. I put the pitch count in manually. So that's the only thing manual I do all day. I have an algorithm that predicts it, but oftentimes we have big misses. So I put in the pitch counts manually because that's something better to do with your own brain, looking at the recent stuff. So I put in that, and then it goes through every start, looks at the lineup, and da-da-da. So the projection systems I think it's somewhat decent. And then it goes and it from another website, it scrapes the betting line. So this is Barrios tonight is projected for 5.6 strikeouts in my model. FanDuel has them at 4.5. So the question is, when do I bet on these? And I try not to, honestly. Like, you're right, the juice is always crazy, and I'm just not a big betting guy. Anyway, I don't do it professionally, so I don't need to, and it's just more stress and stuff, and I just feel like I'll lose. But anyway, if I see one that's like over 1.5 differential here, so you can see this differential is 5.6 minus 4.5. 1.14 is not doing it for me. But if I find one between 1.5 and 2, a difference over or under, and this isn't like insane, like a lot of times when you do see a 1.7, 1.8, you're getting minus 160, minus 170. Right. Don't do it. But if in the few times it does happen every once in a while that I'll have like a strikeout and a half or 2 more than the book, and the line will be 120, 130, 140. So that's when I would do it if you're being very careful. So this is a decent resource for my paid subscribers. At least, if nothing else, it gives you all that information right on one sheet to look at. So.
It's funny. You know where I was going to go with this. Again, man, I wonder if I have a dedicated enough follower. Maybe I could pay somebody to go and actually track just how many bowls we spun during this episode. We could probably do an entire library, 52 one-week episodes based on just the amount of spin-offs from this one thing. And it was what I mentioned to you the other day, which is rectifying the man versus the machine, right? So again, we build these models. I know yours is back tested. I know mine is back tested. I also know it spits out decimal points. I also know those are meaningless, right? But we can't help as humans but to look at them. And this has been part of the problem that I've had betting, like I mentioned at the outset, that I'm actually negative betting. And it's not because the model has been any less successful. I have been less successful at picking the right spots. Generally the model is really, really good. And people attest to this, but it becomes this, the model tells you have a 60% chance of hitting this one. You have a 52% chance of hitting this other one. In reality, those are essentially the same thing.
Yeah.
They really are. They're essentially the same thing. You can't help but pick the 60. It's a darker color on your formatted sheet. And it might come at a better price on the betting line. So you take that one. But are we going to start scrapping our model because the 52% one is hitting and the 60% one is not?
It's a long-term.
Right, exactly. And I've had trouble, and that's what has been my problem this year, because I always hate system hopping, because I really think, again, no matter what we're talking about, betting, trading, DFS, almost anything in life, one of the worst things you could do is system hop. If you're not dedicated to the system, you need to stop putting money on it. You need to do it in real time while you backtest, and once you're ready to commit to it, then you go after it, because you're going to get caught in these things, even as somebody with all this experience. And where I was getting at is, I just think maybe what I need to do, because these are things I believe in, is probably widening my sample a bit. Meaning, I think I try and be too cute and I pick 3 bets and I pick 4, when in reality you should probably be around like 8 or 10, hoping that the number, right, allowing yourself more chances for the numbers to play out.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right. Yeah, go.
Yeah, because if your model has a slight edge, if your model gives you a 52%, like 2% edge, the more times you bet on it, the quicker you'll realize the profit, I guess, is your point.
Yeah. And the more susceptible you are to valleys of missing. And that's just what it is. That's just what it's going to be. And then, it's funny because this is another great one, is I would call the entire episode Rectifying Juice, because it's at what point does the model strength supersede the cost, right? This is something, again, I have pulled my hair out to the point where I mentioned having a written plan, again, another bowl all the way back there. So for the people that said, God, this wild Tasmanian devil of a man, but a lot of these things are pertinent, they matter, and they all have to be used in accordance. I just had to tell myself, I'm setting a hard parameter. I have a written plan that says I don't go beyond minus 140. I just don't pay it. If I need to pay it, I have to pair it, and then you get into parlaying. Why, that's stupid. Although parlaying can also be part of a very successful trading plan, which is not something you hear about. That's another. That's a parlay.
All right, so let me say this. We're gonna wrap it up. One thing, and I agree with you that you need to have your own brain. So I developed this model, so I know it better than other people. And here's a really good example of where I've gotten people in trouble. Justin Verlander. Right, this model for pitchers, it looks for the last 30 starts, because I don't care what they've done in the last 5. I probably should weight those a little bit more, but that's a little bit trickier coding wise. So I take every day, I say Justin Verlander's pitching today, give me his last 30 starts. It's getting better now, but the problem with Verlander at the beginning of the year is what year was it when he made his 30th start ago, right? Like 2019, right? Because he missed all of last year, and I don't think he pitched. Even if he pitched in 2020, I don't remember. He would have made 10 starts.
Yeah, so, correct. Right. You're spanning multiple off seasons.
For him, you're going back to 2019. He's just not the same guy. Like, his strikeout rate's not the same. So I absolutely should be waiting this year more in that special case, but that's too much manual work. If you're asking me if I want to wait the last 5, I don't even really want to do that in most cases. I just want to look at the last 30 and give me those.
Hold on. Can I ask, what's funny? I generally agreed with you. Eno's most recent work would disagree. If you're familiar, I don't know if you've seen
saw his pitch plus stuff, like, it's more predictive when you're just looking at the last few, since the baseball and the weather and stuff changed. Is that what you mean?
Oh, you know what's funny? I think that was a piece of it, but yes, I know the idea of it was I was just testing your pushback on the recency. I know he's more weighing recent stuff,
Yeah.
and
I'm going to talk to him next week. He's on the
that's
podcast
great.
next week. So
Yeah, you should. He's much better at that. He's much better at this than I am. Although I think there's flaws there also. You know, and he admitted too. You're trying to understand the location, the intended. Yeah. Trying to understand intended location in an era where catchers are afraid they're being videotaped and relayed. You have to be careful because they're.
We're not going there again. Let me finish my point.
What do you mean?
You're trying to take me to 6 more bowls here. I'm trying to get out of here.
No.
The point is that it's just this one example, but and I know I can't tell everybody how the model works. I can't put that all out there. But for Verlander and those guys that have missed a lot of time recently, the model will prefer – it's going to give 2019 just as much weight as 2022, and that's a problem for Verlander. So every day I'm too high on Verlander. I'm too high in his strikeouts. Again, as he gets up to 20 starts this year, then every day it'll get better and better because more of the data is coming from this season. But something to keep in mind for people listening to this, that you have to keep in mind what player you're looking at with the projection. Because and then especially someone like O'Neal Cruz, like right now, I think he's still being any of these rookies, right? I think right now it's just using the league average hitter for him because I'm not going to use his 40 plate appearances to mean anything. I think I need it to get to 50 before it even does anything. I think after it gets to 50, it starts looking at his profile and finding hitters that are very similar and then using that group to project. And then after it gets to 100, then I'm using his. So rookies and pitchers that have been and players that have been hurt a lot lately, the projections are much weaker. It's just there's no way to avoid it.
I think I think that's normal. I mean, I didn't want to wait to bet on O'Neal Cruz. We've been smashing smashing that every day, man. You know, again, maybe that's my mistake. You know, was jumping too soon, but. If you're hitting the ball hard, you're making contact. Usually, that's a good sign for you.
Yeah. All right. So and life advice for the young people listening. John here knows what he's doing. He'll tell you he's been through the highs and the very low lows. And if you're like in college listening to this and you want to be a sports handicapper, I'm gonna tell you as a father of 3, even though I haven't met the third one yet, just go get a real job, man. Like learn Python, learn Excel. Learn data analysis and go get a real job with real benefits, a real salary, and don't take the risk that Big John here has put himself through because you have some horror stories, I'm sure.
Well, if I could preface it, is I always like to be very, very honest, is even when I was handicapping professionally or like to live, I always have other small businesses. I always have other ideas. I always have other investments. Always. And to a lot of these things we've been talking about, micro to macro, zooming in and out all the time, there are investments I've made on macro levels that have bailed me out 10 years in the future, you know, because you saw something that you knew was an inefficiency, you piled in, and you just got to be patient. The same way we're telling you do your work and you believe in it, just the way that's so like, it's not like, because I think what happens, Sean, is and this is the best really good lesson, if there are those kind of young, thirsty, aspiring minds, I do fully agree that you should be learning a trade, right? Learn a trade, build a brand. And if you're going to do this stuff, you got to be careful. You got to be smart. You got to do the math because it's really, really hard. You know, it's incredibly hard. And you can't expect to take the money from your account and put it on the table, let's say. Meaning, if John and I were to open up a store selling widgets, we wouldn't say we had a great first week. We're having steak and lobster. That's not how it works. And that's what people do in betting. And that's the failure. One of the failures is and again, it kills me when people lose tailing me. Trust me, dude. If I'm very good at disconnecting, but I know a lot of people are not, and that's what weighs on me. So if you're hold on. I'm able to lose. I'm able to lose because the money is already spoken for. It's a small business I've invested in that I believe in to see through. This is not like, did you make money this week? Who does that? That's the worst way to gauge a business. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
And I think you're benefited from this. Not everybody can even do this. Self-restraint is incredibly hard, and tracking your results isn't fun to do, and all this stuff. And a lot of people don't even have the restraint to do it. And I think kids nowadays, I'm like right in the middle of this shift of everything here and now, quick, right in front of your face. Right? You grew up obviously before this, instant gratification. Exactly.
Yeah.
We don't see a lot of that in young people that grew up with, I mean, you need a new something, whatever. You need to order something, it's on your doorstep the next day.
Yeah.
That just wasn't the case for you. Even me growing up, or even when I was in my low 20s, Amazon Prime wasn't really a thing. It took a while. And that's a specific example, but it's a good way to parlay this into the whole of life. So everybody's brain now growing up has just been triggered to like, I want something, I'm going to get it now. It's pretty easy to get. It's pretty cheap. Before this year, maybe that'll all change. But you need to really know yourself if you're going to do this stuff. Gambling is okay. It's legal. I don't want my kids to do it because I know the risk. The risk is like way outweighs the downside. But know yourself. And if you're just not the kind of person that can be constrained and deal with short-term losses, then you just shouldn't get into it. But we'll talk to John. We'll talk to John again. I did want to talk about like if I can make like a investing dashboard and like just find these things where in a stock, because stocks are all about confidence more so. I mean, I was gonna ask you about crypto too. Obviously that's all about confidence, but like a company at least has something tangible there. But you see all the time that people overreact to these, some news comes out and everybody sells and the price goes down and then you could probably buy there. So I was wondering, and we're not gonna answer this now, but maybe you can just give me
there are definitely trading scripts. And again, dude, you know what the answer is going to be? Time frame. If you believe it or not, the most money I have made is on the simplest long-term trades. The second you get the golden cross, you hop on the 200 DMA and you use money that you don't need tomorrow. It's the same stuff, man. Buy things.
But if every time you bought a stock that goes down 10% in one day, if you just set up a script to say, give me every company that stock dropped by 10% today and buy them all, do you think that would be profit?
It's not that simple, but I've done this, which is funny because I've done this specifically. I just did this and made a ton of cash on. Didn't Walmart drop 18% overnight the other day? It just happened. I know for a fact because again, I'm losing track a little bit, losing my mind. My kids are home, but it had to be within the past 3 weeks or so. So I like to make money on earning reports. That's exactly how I make my money when I'm doing sports gambling. So when I'm betting on sports, I'm not derivatives trading. If you're going to derivatives trade, you're on the micro, you're following every single chart in news. If you're not, you just set alerts or follow earnings. And when a company like Walmart, so to your point, if a company that no one's ever heard of drops 10%, I don't know if I'm necessarily into it.
Yeah.
But sample sizes,
right.
when Walmart drops 18%, dude, you take out a second mortgage and you pay on the Walmart. Yeah. What's wrong with you?
Right.
And again, I could bring it up right now. I'm sure
you answered my question. Yeah, I wanted. Yeah. I feel foolish for even asking you for a quick answer, but you answered my question.
Dude, if it came in in less than 10 minutes, it was a quick answer. Take that.
All right. We'll talk to you again, John. Thanks a lot. This was fun. We got some listeners, and hopefully more people watch the replay.
All right,
so. Have a good weekend, everybody. Happy Independence Day.
Oh, that's funny.